So hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, The Future is Here, How AI is Solving UI Test Automation Problems Today. So let's do introductions before we begin. My name is Amy and I am on the marketing team here at SmartBear, and today I'm joined by Prashant Mohan, who is the Senior Product Manager for TestComplete. How's it going, Prashant?
Very well, thank you, Amy. Thank you everyone for joining. My name is Prashant and I work in the product team at SmartBear, specifically focusing on TestComplete. Very excited to talk about AI and then UI automation and how that all comes together today.
Great. And just a few quick housekeeping items before we begin. So this session is being recorded and it will be sent to everyone after the session is over. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box. That helps us track which questions we have and have not answered yet. And then finally, we do have some poll questions for you today. These help keep the session interactive, and then it also helps us learn more about you guys so that when we're creating content in the future, we can kind of tailor it to what you're looking for. And actually, I think we have one right now. So this is kind of just a primer. What industry do you work in? So we've got financial services, insurance and banking, healthcare and pharma, tech, government, computer software and services, transportation and automotive, retail or consumer goods, telecommunications, or other. So it does look like the majority of the people on the line are in computer software and services. I'll just go ahead and end the polling and then share the results. Just a quick view as to who is on the line today. So almost 41% of those of you joining us are in computer software and services. All right. That was a good introduction to you guys. And so with that, I'll pass it over to Prashant.
Thank you, Amy. So for the next hour or so, let's just walk through what we're going to be talking about. So we'll start with a more generic sense of our topic today, and then deep dive into the product and the use case itself. So we'll start with a very short and high-level introduction of what AI is in colloquial terms, in actual terms, in theory. Quickly go through that. We'll see how various businesses across different industries are using AI today. A lot of these different use cases are fascinating, so we'll just walk through them quickly. And then we'll dive into how AI is impacting our industry, UI test automation in particular. We'll discuss a few key use cases of where AI does truly make sense for UI automation. And then we'll go to the fun part. So we'll show a couple of these use cases using our tool, TestComplete today. And then we'll give you a few tips on how to get started with AI. If this is something that is interesting to you and it's something that your company wants to invest in, I think we give you a few tips on how to get started there. All right, so what is AI? So without getting into too much of the technical aspects of it, this is something as we speak to customers and we speak to other practitioners in the industry, this is what we hear. So I want to share this with you. So your biggest fear, right? So a lot of people think about AI as something that's replacing what they are currently doing. So we hear this a lot, but it's truly not the case at all. Is it the end of the world, right? Is everything going to be controlled by machines going forward? AI is intelligence demonstrated by machines in contrast to the natural intelligence displayed by humans. So this is a very nice way of putting what AI is. And then this comes in from truly from a a personal perspective as we talk to customers. AI is or are computers that mimic cognitive functions that humans associate with the human mind, such as learning and problem solving. So absolutely right. AI emphasizes the creation of intelligent machines that work and react like humans. And it's important. It's important to note here that that the machine is eventually created by the human, and so we try to create it as closely as possible to the human itself. And sometimes people just refer to it as a conglomeration of concepts and technologies that mean different things to different people, which is truly the case now because AI or artificial intelligence has become such a buzzword in not just our market, but in just general across the technology space, and canvassing out to other industries as well. So really, it's just a bunch of or a collection of the different things that put together solving some specific problem. But if you were to define it in a clear and concise way, you could simply say that AI is a broad category of methodologies that teach a computer to perform tasks as an intelligent person would. So essentially what we're doing is identifying patterns, techniques, modeling that into something that the machine can then use its power to compute and then produce some result or some aspect that would usually be done by an intelligent person. Now, the computing power of a machine means that they're less likely to make mistakes. But having said that, human intuition is always important, and as much as we would like to think as AI as truly the next phase, it's important that human intuition also comes into place. So this is how you would broadly categorize it. And there's like essentially three different terms that are mostly associated with AI. Many of these terms are very loosely used, so there's truly no real actual definition. But neural networks, machine learning, and deep learning are a few things that that we throw around as we associate with artificial intelligence. Now, taking a step back and just looking at what the people are saying about the impact of AI globally, right? So an analyst of PwC says that AI will truly impact the global GDP by $15.7 trillion in the next 10 years or so. 72% of business leaders termed AI as a business advantage. Right, you're able to use all that computational power and identify patterns and predictions and forecasts using data that is it's important to know that is powered by humans. So by 2020, it's predicted that robots will be able to flirt and make jokes, right? So Google said that it will be able to emotionally connect to humans, and yes, and so now if you really can just use a machine on your dates going forward. So a majority of us have AI already in our devices. Now we'll go over some of these different use cases, but sometimes we just don't know the apps and software that we use on our phones and laptops. It's a lot of AI already powered into it, and it's just not visible to us. And in terms of is this a good career path to pursue? Surely, yes. So the machine learning engineers usually earn up to 115,000 per annum in dollars. So which is pretty significant, and that means that this is a field that's highly regarded and is very important to take companies forward. And finally, PwC said again, so automated bots could automate up to 38% of the jobs here in the US with 30% of the jobs in the UK, 21% in Japan, and 35% in Germany. So essentially, so the numbers here basically signify that that some of the work that we're doing could be done at the same level, or if not better, using machines. But that does not mean that it's replacing us. It just means that it is helping us do our job better. All right, so let's look at a few use cases, right? So AI is transforming all industries, not just software testing that we will focus on today. I think an important one of the more common aspects that we see in a lot of our homes is conversational AI, right? So we have devices such as the Amazon Echo, the Google Home, and conversational AI has advanced to levels that are not imaginable now, right? So simply just using our voices to have conversations, just like a human would, is incredible. I think in the last a conference led by Google, in the Google I/O, they had a very good demo of an actual conversation happening between someone who wanted to book a restaurant at a hotel. And you could see that it's very contextual, right? It's just not a bunch of rules that's put together. You have emotions into it. Even if you switch topics, the device is able to understand what the context is and make those necessary changes. And truly, the end result is communication that is it's very seamless, right? It's effortless, it's seamless, and it does solve problems, and it does do tasks and actions. And the most important part is that they get smarter with time. So as the more and more the machine is able to learn, the better the results are the next time. Tesla is another big proponent of modern technology and AI, machine learning, computer vision. Is used extensively by Tesla in promoting promoting and creating their autonomous car. So details are so they don't divulge all the details, but they do have a partnership with NVIDIA, and they say that there's a lot of object detection, there's mapping, there's path planning, a lot of components that go into making sure that the car is able to drive in a straight line, and also understand that there's obstacles along the way, there's objects, and then it's programmed to understand what to do based on a given situation. Of course, it's not perfect, but it does get better and better with time, and it's something that we would see in the next 5 to 10 years as something that's going to become more mainstream. Whoops. All right, some of the other use cases, so we see this all the time too. So in our phones, we get emails, and Gmail in particular is able to give you some smart suggestions on how you need to reply. And this also becomes smarter and smarter as we go. If you've noticed some of the latest versions of Gmail, you start typing, and it understands what you want to say, and it completes the sentence for you. And so these are things that are advancing really quickly, and it's all a matter of just understanding the intent and the context, and then providing a necessary feedback. And eventually, it's up to you to decide whether you want to use it or not. But at every level, it is learning and understanding what should be the next step, which is very, very cool. Chatbots, targeted ads, these are very common too. So carrying a phone, you pass a target, for example, you're going to get ads on target, or something that you want to buy from a store like Target. So these have already become mainstream, and you see this all the time. Chatbots are very, very popular now as well. This is a very interesting one to me. So have you ever wondered how Wimbledon the team there focuses on what content they need to deliver. Right, so there's hundreds of games going on at the same time in a short span, a short period of time. Now, at the end of the day, they need to produce a highlights reel of the day's action. So it's very interesting how they figure out what is the best content to deliver. So they leverage IBM Watson's AI in order to understand what's important and what's not. So, for example, they use a few parameters here, like what is the overall excitement level at a given point of time in the game, you know, based on the noise level of the crowd. It's based on the actual players that are playing. What type of action is it a long rally, for example? Is it a great shot? Is it a truly down the line forehand by Federer, right? So there's so many aspects that are then programmed into a model, which then gives you a score. So if you see on the right there, a match point obviously has a much bigger excitement level than a first point in the game, for example. The first set, your set point, certain points in the game which are just create more excitement than the others. If John McEnroe, for example, breaks a racket, now even though that's something that you don't want to always show in the highlights reel, but it does create that that buzz and that noise and that excitement that that people do want to hear and see. So it's very interesting how different companies are leveraging artificial intelligence to deliver something that's truly unique. And IBM Watson also focuses a lot on healthcare, and one of the things that they do is cancer diagnosis. So different hospitals around the world have leveraged this to forecast and to predict well in advance of how likely a person is to get cancer. So something that's truly beneficial, has been used for a good cause, and a lot of companies around the world are leveraging this technology to for the greater good. Financial services, FinTech is another big use case for artificial intelligence. Right, so you have digital assistants these days helping us navigate through our plans, our savings, our spendings. A very common use case is how do we recommend the right financial product to the right person based on the profile. Fraud detection, so how likely are you to use use your credit card, for example, for the wrong reasons, or how likely is someone else who finds your card going to be using your card. So fraud detection is a clear use case. And contract analysis, right? It's a very repetitive internal task which can be delegated to a machine. So something that a machine can do, it does not require too much human intuition. Simply just analyzing a lot of data. And a good case study there is JP Morgan saved about 360,000 hours a year from its employees in just a few seconds. So again, just crunching a lot of numbers, a lot of data, putting all that together, and removing some of the tedious tasks that a human would do. All right, so now what's the impact of AI in our world, right? So software testing is what we're generally focused on. We want to deliver software that's of high quality, that our customers would like, and in the quickest way possible. So there's about 5 different categories of where AI could or may impact software testing. And so we'll go over all these in detail, but just to state these 5 different categories. So test case design. So the first aspect of testing is to be able to create those test cases itself. Right now, this is at a manual level and at an automation level. Can a tool just simply look at the application and understand some of the key workflows and design those test cases automatically? very very common use case and a big problem across our teams is that it just takes too long to first of all write all those test cases, and then once you do, it's hard to figure out if it's actually relevant. What if the customer is doing something else and totally something that you are not testing at all? So that's a first and very obvious use case for software testing and AI. Test management. So once you do have all your tests, and let's say this is in the automation world, you have your tests created. Now what happens if your application changes? You got to go ahead and since our automation tests are usually bound to rules and to properties, you got to go ahead and manually change all of them, which leads to a lot of wasted effort. So is there a way for something to identify, some tool to identify that an application has changed and automatically self-heal itself? Test execution and test result analysis go together. So you finally automate your tests, or you run your tests, you have a report that's generated. Now can a tool or something tell you give you an indication of whether the results are good or bad? How likely is it for an end user to actually not find something else that you haven't covered in the next run? Let's say you have just a few hours or much less time to run your test cases. Is a tool able to tell us what are the most highest priority based on past test runs, based on a various set of parameters? So just looking at results, analyzing them, providing insights is also a clear use case for AI. And finally, test coverage. So we touched on this a little bit during the test case design part, but at the end of the day, we want to be writing tests and creating tests that truly matter, that will impact, that will cause the fewest bugs in production. So is AI able to capture some of those scenarios that we didn't so far? And is it able to crawl through the different aspects of your application and understand some nuances that a human hasn't so far? Is another big use case. All right, and the main reason why this is important for us, and why this will be useful in our world is, hey, we just want to keep releasing faster, right? It has so many benefits. We just need to be able to go to market in quickly and the highest quality possible, right? So if we look down the memory lane of how we've typically released our products, right? So we traditionally, a lot of companies still traditionally follow a methodology where the development team creates a certain set of code, and then after a few weeks or months passes that on to the QA team. The QA team then takes that, tests it, logs some bugs, and the cycle repeats for every new feature. So we generally call this the waterfall model, where developers just pass on the code to testers to then test the application. And then we realized, okay, so some of this manual testing is too cumbersome, takes too long, we miss too many bugs. So let's get some automation in, right? So let's get a tool in, and let's try to automate as much as we can, so that every time a developer makes a change, we can run a regression suite, so we can find those defects faster than before. Right? So that's the next phase, where we try to go into the more agile way of things. Then you have you start with those bulky tools, those tools that are hard to create tests, hard to manage your tests. Then you go a little bit more agile, a little bit more of a modern tool set, where you have tools that are smart enough to first of all create your tests in the most straightforward way possible, understands when your test needs to be updated, and also provides you all these cool insights after your test runs. and then integrates with CI tools, integrates with your project management tool. Jira is usually the most common one. Are these tools able to leverage some of the new methodologies such as BDD and things like that? So you have more of these robust tools that solve a wide variety of use cases. So that's essentially the next phase. Continuous testing. So this is almost becoming mainstream now, very commonplace. We have to be able to continuously test, continuously deliver, and so we generally deploy multiple times a day sometimes. So so we need to keep testing it, and so continuous integration deployment is crucial. And then finally, the fifth level of this automation capability is autonomous testing, right? So as soon as the developer writes a piece of code, are they able to push a button and be able to test that in some capacity? Right? Are we able to program something or use a tool set that's smart enough to be able to achieve that, where you really don't need too much human intervention, at least to do a basic set of tests, the happy path. Now there will always be situations where you need to manual test, you need to write automation code that are at the script level. So what can AI help in eliminating some of that effort? And so yes, so once it does help us there, and once we do achieve as close to the right of that chart as possible, right, so we have more time now to focus on business goals. We've achieved the speed that we want to with fast release cycles. Since we have automated our tests, the quality will be top notch as well, and also the cost. When you think of it, right, a bug found in production is much more expensive than a bug that we find at the development or the testing stage. And then we foster a good culture and a culture of innovation within the team. So we're looking to constantly innovate and understand where things can be optimized as much as possible. All right, so we have a poll for you. So just want to understand, what kind of tester are you? It gives us an idea of how to approach the demo.
And this is a multiple select question. So if you do manual testing and you are an automation engineer, it just helps us to understand and kind of get a more holistic picture of what you guys do day to day. Okay. Should we share the results really quickly?
Yep. Oh, looks like a majority of them are automation engineers. Also, a significant number of people are manual testers.
Yeah, so. I was just going to say, it's not insignificant. There are many people doing manual testing. Great.
All right. All right, so moving on, right? So why is this important now? Now, we've been talking about this for a long time. AI, some of us believe that it's just a myth. It's something that that will not be important for a few more years, but we think so. So why is this important now, right? And why is something like this adopted now, right? So there's so many useful systems, machine learning systems, that are relatively easy to build, right? So a lot of these tools allow you to create models without having too much of statistical or mathematical knowledge or programming knowledge, which means that that a lot of people can get started easily. The availability of and the ability to store and process large amounts of data make these systems more accurate, right? And we're just able to consume a large amount of data, and more the data, the better the system always. So we have the computational power now to be able to tackle a big data set. And our industry now, there's been a lot of pioneers of AI and machine learning in the software testing world. And now there is a huge potential. There are big problems in our world that can be solved with AI. So testing is just a very obvious and a very good use case. It's simply built on a logical foundation, right? It's eventually when you do write your tests, you have a context, you have an action, and you have a validation, and these steps are followed across the board for automation, and it's all at the end of the day, it's different patterns and just a simple rule-based logical foundation that you can work with. And then why it's important is that we're just as companies, we're just struggling to keep up with user expectations, right? Users always want the product to do, or software to do more and more every day, and as development and software teams, we're just not able to keep up with that pace. And so if we can delegate some of that work to a machine, then we'll just be able to focus on the more important things. So some of the big challenges in the automated testing space, right? So we spoke about some of those categories. So now if we were to deep dive into them, so test design or the creation of tests, some of the critical aspects here are unreliable object recognition, right? Always a big challenge. And object recognition for UI automation is basically the foundation, right? If your tool is not able to understand the controls, the objects, the properties, and in some way, then you're not able to interact with them. Test framework design. So when you do start your automation journey, how or what is the best way to start creating your test cases? Right? So that's not clear either. And there's inadequate prioritization, right? So if we have a bunch of tests that we've automated, it usually is nothing telling us of what is important to run on a daily basis. We usually make some guesses on what a smoke test is and what a regression test is, what a functional test is, but really there's more to that, right? There's information on what tests fail more often than not, on what piece of code is written by which developer, and is that developer more prone to creating buggy code than someone else. So there's a lot of data out there which we can aggregate and then give you a ranking on what tests are more important to run than the others. So test maintenance and execution, right? So test refactoring, huge problem in the UI automation space. So once we do create our tests, the tests are stable for a few days, and then the application changes. We've got to refactor all these tests. Huge problem. So and a big potential for some level of machine learning to be able to solve this problem. Test scalability. So if you are to run your tests on different devices, configurations, which ones are more important than the others? Can we get some data of actual customer usage and then model that around our test execution plan? And finally, test insight. So once you've executed your tests, are you able to get a deep enough insight to actually understand if your product is good to go or not? Are some of the key challenges that we have. And so with intelligent test design, though, and how to overcome these problems, so you start with object recognition, right? Is the tool able to automatically recognize new objects on your screen, right? And updates to without any manual effort. So there are some controls which we'll see in the demo, which is very cool, because a lot of these controls do not have properties that are exposed in the DOM. But is the tool smart enough to understand that that hey, all we need is to validate the content there? So really, is object recognition the best way through properties? So we'll see how that can be overcome. Framework generation and risk profiling. So prioritizing tests and automatically scanning your application to recommend a framework or some other big use cases for test design. And when it comes to test maintenance, so self-healing, dynamically updating the test when your application changes. We'll see how that works. It's really cool. In our latest version of TestComplete in 14.3, we have a feature that's able to self-heal. So we'll show you that real quick. Bug hunting is another use case. So exploratory testing. So I did see that some of you are exploratory testers. So using some AI-powered mechanism, you just need to crawl through your application and discover bugs that are otherwise not too prevalent. Application resilience, right? So again, chaos monkeys is a very it's a term essentially defined by Netflix in the same army, where they're just able to make sure that they introduce bugs in random parts of the system, and are then measuring how they recover from that impact in the most in the most efficient way possible, such that it's with the least impact to the end users. And process automation, right? So process automation, or RPA, that's a common term that's used now. Business flows also need to be automated, not just test automation, not just your test cases. So moving data from one system to another is a very, very common use case. So business workflows are also being automated more and more. All right, so a quick poll for you before we dive into some of the key capabilities within TestComplete and AI. So are you leveraging any sort of AI in your current testing strategy at all?
All right. Let's take a look at how many people are using AI. So not too many yet, but great opportunity coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Hopefully we'll have more yeses than no in a few months.
Yeah, after watching this.
All right, so TestComplete. So for those of you who don't know what TestComplete is, so TestComplete is an automated functional testing tool in the UI space, and it helps you essentially automate test cases at a functional layer, at a user interface level, by recognizing objects on your screen. And the two ways that TestComplete does leverage AI to solve a problem is object recognition and test maintenance. Right, from in the object recognition aspect, what we're able to do now is test many more applications than before. So you're able to test complex and hard to find application controls and components, such as dynamic IDs, charts, mainframes, PDFs. These are applications that are historically pretty hard to test, and so using a technology that TestComplete now has, we're just able to make this much easier. And then we improve test maintenance with a feature that we call an intelligent fix. So it's an intelligent recommendation system, and a self-healing capability that will automatically identify unexpected errors due to dynamic properties, changes in your application, and recommend an alternative. Right? So your test now in this case will not fail, because truly your application is absolutely fine. It's just that a specific control is changed. But after test execution, now you will have the opportunity to accept this fix or not. So we will fix it for you. We will self-heal it. But at the end of the day, it's up to you, because a false positive is always more impactful than a false negative. So we do not want to make we do not want to guess on what is an actual application change or not. But the more you test, we have some capabilities that will help us understand whether it's truly the right decision that the TestComplete's made or not, and then we keep improving this. All right, so now I'm just going to switch to TestComplete and show you for the next 10 to 12 minutes on some of the capabilities within TestComplete. So for those of you who haven't seen TestComplete, it's a tool that you can download off our website. There's a 30-day trial. Once you do download it, you're shown a start page. So this page just basically is a collection of different entities that can help you get started. So it's very simple to create a new project. So TestComplete does support both record and playback and scripting. So depending on the skill set of your team, you can choose to use either one or the other or both together. So usually you just select a scripting language because in case you have some complex scenarios that you want to script, you can select one of 5 scripting languages here. JavaScript and Python are the most common, and I like JavaScript personally. And then there's other optional things that you can add. So if you have BDD Gherkin feature files, if you follow the BDD methodology, then you can import your feature files that you've created, or you can create feature files from scratch using TestComplete itself. And if you are testing a desktop-based application, you can simply just add it to TestComplete so that we can then recognize those objects in a much better way. In this case, I'm just going to hit finish here, just keep everything default. And we look at a very common use case now. So before that, just a quick overview of the UI. We have the Project Explorer on the left, basically collection of all your artifacts for your tests. And the key area that you'll be working on is this workspace area here is where you'll be creating your tests. So just looking at the use case real quick. So I navigate to the browser, and a lot of times as web technology and web-based applications become more and more popular, there's a lot of frameworks and a lot of elements that are introduced into the web world. And one of them is the HTML canvas-based element, and which is particularly common in charting applications, in applications that have anything to do with visualizations and business intelligence and things like that. And as a tester, what you need to do is perform a bunch of actions and validate some content on this page. Right, so you have some numbers, some text, some charts. You want to be able to interact with the chart, click on some of these items, validate the content here. So let's see in a traditional way how that's achieved, right? So TestComplete has something called the Object Spy. The Object Spy helps you spy on the elements on your screen and understand what properties are available and what's not. So very nice, neat little feature of TestComplete. So let's scroll down to this number here, right? So the number of House representatives here is 118, and we just want to basically validate that the number 118 is as expected or not. So we drag the target onto that element, and you can see there's a red box around it, which means TestComplete is able to identify that as an element on the screen, which is good. And then we look for the number 118. So you can see there's nothing returned there. Let's see if there's anything with text. There's nothing there either. So content text is a property that TestComplete uses to identify text on the screen. But unfortunately here you can see that's blank, which means it is not visible. And the reason why it's not visible is because it is a canvas-based element. So essentially something that's drawn on the screen and not programmed through the HTML DOM. And this is common for a lot of the newer frameworks and the newer types of elements. Shadow DOM is another common example of where elements are not available in a straightforward way. So the way that TestComplete is able to overcome that is to use some smart OCR technology. So where the AI comes into play is we are leveraging the Google Vision API, which is the technology that powers Google Photos and Google Translate and a bunch of other Google tools. where they have millions and millions of data points, and understanding fonts and understanding text, and being able to give us the most accurate result ever, right? So, and with TestComplete's help, what we're able to do is spy on the element again, just like before. But this time, instead of recognizing the property itself, what we can do is simply capture an image of that and convert that image into text. So you see this happens very quickly and very accurately. It's able to get that result. And now what you do is now you have that as a checkpoint and a text value that you're able to validate against. And this is possible for various kinds of elements. So if we were to perform the same check for another type of element, so let's say we have this big block and we want to validate all the content on this big block here, which is otherwise not visible. So what we do is we spy on that element, we get a snapshot of it. Here you can see that it's got some of the hovers and the hover text as well. So what TestComplete does is simply just convert all that into text, and the reason why it's so accurate and so quick is because of the power of Google AI that is then built into TestComplete. So we can simply easily validate any of the content here and move on, which was otherwise not possible. So while OCR might seem like traditional old technology and usually not well accepted in the test automation space, what we've been able to do is leverage just the whole theme of OCR, but infuse some artificial intelligence using Google's API, and then provide that in a way in TestComplete that's very easy to use. So you can see here that you can validate content. All this is possible using recording as well, and if you are interested in scripting, you can do that as well. And the key here is that it's easy to use, and it works all the time. All right, another use case is PDF testing. So we use similar technology here in that we're able to extract all the text pretty accurately from a PDF file and then compare that against an expected result. So then you can compare two PDFs. You can set a PDF as a baseline, and then you have a new PDF that you want to compare against. So that is then possible using similar technology. And again, the AI part here is the value of AI here is basically in the speed and the robustness of the technology and the recognition capability. And then finally, the self-healing one, and this is a fun one. So what I'm going to do is just simply record a test, just as a usual tester, as part of my usual workflow. I'm creating a test, and I'm going to enforce an error and see how TestComplete handles that when the object property actually changes. So I'm just going to simply record a new test here. I'm just going to say this is Notepad. So a simple test where I type into Notepad and I close the file, and I'm going to hit cancel. So the button that we're going to play around with is this cancel button. So I'm going to hit cancel and stop my test. So you can see here all my actions are recorded along with screenshots, which is pretty cool. Another aspect of TestComplete is its object repository, or the name mapping editor. This is one place where we store all the objects properties such that it is modular and keeps it separate from your actual test case. So in this case, we have our button. The window class is button, and the caption on the button is cancel. So that's how we're able to recognize this element here. Let's say the developer changes the application. They change the word cancel to close, and the way to simulate that is to simply change the property here in the name mapping editor. So I changed this value to close here. So that means that now TestComplete or any tool will probably not be able to identify the element because the property has changed. But with TestComplete, what you can do is simply enable the self-healing mode here. And once that's enabled, I'm just going to do another quick thing to make sure that the timeout is not too much. I'm just going to reduce the timeout to 3 seconds so that we don't have to wait too long for the failure to happen and the self-healing to happen. And I'm going to run this test. So what we would expect in a very traditional way is for this test to fail because the tool is not able to identify the cancel button. All right, so I'm going to run this test. So Notepad's going to show up. It's thinking now, right? So it's looking at it. It's saying, hey, it's supposed to be closed, but nope. But it ended up clicking on it. It ended up understanding that from a user point of view, nothing is really changed. It's just that the developer had changed something in the background. Now this happened really, really quickly. So let's go over what happened here real quick. So we can see here that the test went through and it completed all the steps, but it did throw a warning there. It's like, hey, we self-heal your test, but we did see that the mapping criteria has changed. So your mapping criteria before was your mapping value was supposed to be close, but in fact it is cancel, right? So but we found this, we updated this automatically, but hey, you have the final say. Do you accept this fix or not, right? And so imagine, so this is just one condition, but imagine if many properties in your application has changed, and really from a user perspective, from a user interface perspective, nothing has changed. Your tests will unnecessarily fail, and then you have to go back and update all these tests manually. So here you have the option to, first of all, just ignore those errors, go through the test, and then you can simply just accept this fix. And once you do accept this fix, all right, so we already changed it. So let's go back to the name mapping. Right, so yep, so let me just change this to close. Yeah, so it looks like I clicked on that twice, but so what happened is, so it was closed before, and now it's automatically changed to cancel. So which means that our test is automatically healed, and there's no big refactoring that needs to be done. And this will be very beneficial for web-based applications, which are where you have very many dynamic elements, packaged applications, any applications with random IDs. Very, very useful feature. All right, now just to wrap it up. So we saw 3 use cases where some intelligent methods, AI, machine learning, some rule-based algorithms can help make your job easy, right? Now the question is, okay, from your perspective, how do we get started, and where do we get started? Right, so the key is to start small, right? You can't solve the world with AI by just thinking of too many use cases. So start small, and your next step is to first understand what use cases are truly valid for AI. Right, all cases are not applicable, so it is important to understand what are some of the use cases that you have that are valid for AI. Once you do that, then you determine what tests are most suitable to address with AI. Regression tests are a common thing that is applicable, because in this case you're running this in a very frequent way, and usually don't expect things to change too much. So there is some there's a definite use case there. And this is an important one, right? So do you want to build your own algorithms? Do you want to leverage existing solutions and tools, or a mix? Right? Usually we find, as we talk to customers about this, we see a mix is the way to go. Some teams have the expertise to develop algorithms on their own, and this is possible within a tool like TestComplete as well, because there's a full-blown IDE inside the tool itself. So if you can import some open source models that are available, you can simply leverage them in your day-to-day tests as well. Involve the right resources. You need someone to evaluate some of the tool sets that are already available, and what uh, and how those tools can satisfy some of your use cases. Or sometimes, if you are looking to build something from scratch, you might need to consider a data scientist. Data is a key aspect of anything machine learning and anything AI. So there will be a bunch of data that you'll probably need to source from various places, organize, and then clean. Cleaning data is usually a cumbersome job, but it is important to do that before you embark on your AI journey. And then finally, you have to define some measures of success. Right? If you want to continue this, this could be an expensive project. So you need to first identify some success criteria, and then measure it as you embark on this journey. So to sum up, so without AI, we spend a lot of time refactoring tests. That should not be the case. Our tools should be smart enough to help you with this. Object recognition. I showed you just one case here where objects are difficult to recognize, but there's tons and tons of cases that we've seen people use our capability for, which is very, very interesting. And not just validating content, but even interacting with content, which is hard to do with traditional property-based methods. We spend a lot of time repeating things. We spend our times on the defects found. Is it truly a defect? Is it not? And a bunch of other things, failures, bottlenecks, stability, things that we shouldn't be spending time on. But now with AI, we can focus on truly what will benefit us and our company. We're able to scale. We're able to increase our test coverage. We're able to improve customer satisfaction, which directly leads to business impact. Creativity, we see more results. Our test coverage is improved. So all in all, AI has a lot of benefits, and software testing is a use case that is extremely ripe to use this technology, and we encourage you to use the features that are available in TestComplete and other products around there, and also develop your own AI algorithms. There's a lot of material out there that can help you with it. All right, and before we end, we have a quick poll with you. If you're interested in learning more about us, our products, or AI in general, we're happy to reach out and follow up with you.
And I think we have just maybe a couple minutes for questions and answers. And so I do know that there are some questions in the Q&A panel, but I did see some questions coming through the chat as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple places to look, I think.
All right, so let's see. Yep, so I see a very specific question on the self-healing aspect, where if an object does change, property does change, and in the next run, will it be able to identify it? Yes, absolutely. I think any element that you're interacting with at that level and at the parent level, if TestComplete does see that it has changed, then yes, it will automatically automatically update it. Licensing with Google API is another question. Is there going to be any trouble there? I don't think so. I think Google has a very easy to use, straightforward licensing scheme, a straightforward API. So we just simply call that API when required, and use our own mechanisms that we developed proprietary in TestComplete to capture that information and relay that in a way that makes sense. So how will TestComplete take over Selenium, which is a dominating tool since a few years now? So yes, so there's the question is, is an interesting one, but it's not really valid because TestComplete's not meant to take over anything. Open source technology will still rule. It is Selenium is a great tool, something that's widely adopted. So all we're doing is to solve certain small problems that you would face, and we are pretty sure that these problems are big enough that would require a tool such as TestComplete. Do we have time for another question, maybe?
I think we can do one more. If you can stay, we'd love for you to
Yeah,
stay,
yeah,
but if you have to hop off, please
yep,
feel free.
yeah. Maybe one more question.
Yeah.
So let's see. I'm just trying to sift through. All right. I guess I'll take. I guess I'll take. I guess I'll take this one, right? So is is the features that we saw part of the base TestComplete functionality, or is it another add-in? It depends on what functionality you're using. The OCR feature is something that it does come in an add-on, only because we do leverage a third-party technology here, and so um, so it is part of an add-on, but the self-healing part comes in the base, and so there's nothing specific that you need to do there. And one more thing is Groovy supported in TestComplete. No, Groovy isn't. JavaScript, Python, VB Script are most common, and then you have some older ones such as C# script and JScript that's also being supported.
Okay, so I think we will wrap it up there since we've gone over a couple minutes. So we appreciate you all for staying with us and taking the time out of your day to join us. And also a huge, huge thank you to Prashant for sharing all of this information about AI with us today. And so that's it from us. I hope that you guys have a good rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.